What's going on, guys? Matt from the College Football Update, and today it's time to have an important conversation about the biggest debate in college football. Now, whether or not these two sides want to admit it's a debate, it is a debate. Even if you ask an SEC fan and they'll tell you it's not a debate, the SEC has been king for 20 years. They've been the king forever. Even though if you ask a Big Ten fan, it's not a debate. Who are the last two champions? Look what Ohio State did to all those SEC teams. What did Michigan do to Alabama in the Rose Bowl? And so today, as an unbiased, diehard college football fan from the West Coast, I'm going to give my honest opinion about the Big Ten and the SEC. Now, as I just mentioned, this even being up for discussion is offensive to the SEC fans. But why is that? Why do they feel so entitled and so confident? Why are they going to be mad at me for even making this video? Well, that's because honestly, they've earned it. The SEC has undoubtedly been the best conference in football. I mean, you just look at the numbers. 13 of the last 20 champions have been from the SEC. They've consistently had the best recruiting, most teams in the top 10, most teams in the top 25, the most draft picks. Pretty much every conference stat you could name, they come out on top time and time again. They were so dominant that the national championship game was a rematch of the SEC championship game on multiple occasions. Imagine that, but with the Big Ten or the Big 12 or RIP to the Pac-12. That just wasn't going to happen, and it happened multiple times with the SEC. They've been so dominant that when the college football season started, you knew that there were going to be multiple top 5 teams from the conference. Whether it was Nick Saban's dynasty at Alabama, Kirby Smart's back-to-back run at Georgia, one of the best teams we've ever seen with the 2019 LSU Tigers. This conference dominated college football, and it wasn't really close. And well, the SEC was definitely the king, and it wasn't really a discussion. The Big Ten was always number 2 with their powerhouses like Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State. And as good as these teams were, as good as the conference was, unless you were a diehard Big Ten fan, you knew they weren't the SEC. That's not to say the Big Ten teams couldn't beat the SEC teams. Of course they could. But top to bottom, the SEC was on top of the college football world. But this was in the past. In 2025, we may have a new king. As I mentioned earlier, the past 2 national champions have been from the Big Ten. But it's not just that. They also took down SEC teams along the ride. In 2023, Michigan beat the SEC champs in Alabama. And in 2024, Ohio State destroyed Tennessee. And then they took down Texas on their way to a national championship, beating Notre Dame, who beat Georgia, another top SEC team. And those are just the top teams in 2024. And those are just the top playoff teams. In the 2024 bowl season, the Big Ten had a record of 5-1 against the SEC. So the Big Ten definitely has an argument. In fact, if you're looking just strictly from 2023, you erased all the history of college football, which obviously is stupid to do, but we're looking right at the present. Since 2023, the Big Ten honestly probably wins that argument. But before SEC fans scream at me, I don't think it's obvious. There isn't a solidified top conference. It's not the Big Ten or the SEC. Because if I take a deep dive, objectively, if you put your bias aside, you should be able to accept 2 things. Whether you're an SEC fan or Big Ten, accept these 2 things. Number 1, that this is close. Even if you look ahead to the 2025 season, the Big Ten and the SEC are dead tied with 4 top 12 teams each. They both consistently have their teams in the playoffs. Their top tier teams are evenly matched, and their middle tier teams are evenly matched. Even the conference realignment was similar, as they both added a powerhouse top 5 to 10 program, Oregon and Texas, and also a blue blood program that is currently struggling but look to have a promising future in Oklahoma and USC. So they're really similar. No matter how hard it is to admit as an SEC fan, as a Big Ten fan, they are eerily similar. The second thing you need to accept is that this is just straight up incredible for college football to have 2 big dog conferences that don't like each other, and every time you see a Big Ten and an SEC matchup, you are going to write it down on your schedule. This is great for the sport of college football, because that is the best thing about the sport, is the pride we have behind our teams and the hatred for your opponent that comes out of that pride. And as we continue to play these matchups like Ohio State, Texas week 1 this year, and get more and more playoff games between the 2 conferences, it will lead to new mini rivalries. Like after the past 2 years, Michigan and Bama don't like each other. And the next time, believe me, the next time Bama plays Michigan, they will be out for blood. So as a fan that doesn't necessarily have stock in either side, I'm just stoked to see what happens next. But as I wrap up this deep dive, my final opinion on this debate is that it's truly up in the air. If you asked me 2 years ago, this wouldn't even be a question. The SEC was the king, as I've explained. But with multiple factors in this sport, conference realignment, NIL, Saban retiring, college football has changed a whole lot, and I can confidently say that the Big Ten has closed the gap. You look at Texas, Georgia, Bama, LSU, top 4 teams versus the Big Ten's top 4 teams. Ohio State, Penn State, Oregon, Michigan. In this year's case, it's Illinois. The talent level is so similar that you can't definitively say that one is better than the other. Instead of the SEC being the king, this is a year-to-year debate, which I'm so excited for, because that means from year to year, it will go back and forth until one conference dominates for a 2 to 3 year stretch and reclaims the throne. Right now, after the 2024 season, the Big Ten has it because they're the defending champs and they dominated you in bowl season. But you best believe that the SEC is coming back with vengeance, and if they have the national champ this year, they will have the bragging rights, and then the Big Ten will be able to claim it back the following year, and it'll continue to be that way for years to come, and I am so excited. But anyways, that's going to do it for today's video. I'm going to bring college football content all year long on here and on TikTok, so make sure to tune in if you love college football, and if you stayed all the way until the end of the video, I know you do. But as always, thank you all so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one.